Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I am going to be working on another commission that I got after that giraffe painting. I have two more actually that I need to do. So this one has nothing to do with animals, but I've already started the sketch. I did it wrong once and had to waste a piece of paper. I should have taken my own recommendations, which is to always put it on tracing paper or another sheet of paper and then use graphite to transfer it or whatever, charcoal. But I didn't do that, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to speed this up because it will take a while, and it's going to be a sun and moon painting with a fairy on a swing. So right now, you notice I have different colors on here. This is just regular graphite, and the fairy I did in regular graphite. And I'm right now using watercolor pencil to put some flames on my sun. And I have to remember to stay 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of my paper, which is another thing that I didn't do on my last one that I messed up. So now I'm going to go ahead and speed this up and we'll get it done. I like to get all of my paints mixed up before I start. The other day I had done a little prototype of what I would be doing, and these are a couple of the paints left from the moon side. But I'm also going to mix up the other ones. So I'm just mixing up my yellows. I'm going to start with the sun. So I have a bright cooler yellow. Then I have my, I think this is New Gamboge. Yeah, New Gamboge yellow that I'm mixing here. I won't need as much of that. Probably need a little more of this other yellow, which is either a Aureolin or, no, this is Hansa Yellow Medium, I believe. Oops, I almost put it in the wrong one. And then I'm going to mix up some magenta. Actually, this is quinacridone magenta. And again, I won't need as much of that. Just wetting my brush a little bit to try to get off a little more of this pigment. This is a mop brush I'm using there. It helps to hold a lot more. And also a little bit of orange, which I probably won't use much of, but I'm not sure. Because I have the yellow and the quinacridone magenta, they will mix into an orange, so I probably won't need much orange, but this could give me a different orange color. I don't really care for this orange so much because it is a semi-transparent orange, not transparent. I bought the wrong one. It's Paranone orange. And so it wasn't quite the right orange that I was looking for. Now I'm going to reconstitute these by just taking my spray bottle. So if you have paints on your palette, you can always do that. Just take a spray bottle with some water, clean water, and then remix your paints. I've got a lot of separation here, so those will need to be mixed quite a bit. And then same with this one. This was a mix of phthalo blue and Payne's gray. I think that I used that more on the sky, actually, the night sky. And I'm going to try to do a nebula on this also. I may have to practice it a couple times first to make sure I get it down okay. That will take a wet into wet technique, and I like to make sure I've got that part mastered before I do it so I don't ruin the whole painting. But now I'm going to go ahead and speed up and start painting in my sun. Watercolor, you may have heard people talk about wet into wet technique or dry into wet technique and wonder what exactly do they mean by that. Well, this is wet into wet technique that I'm doing now. I'm taking clean water, or it should be clean water. I've got some pink on my brush here. I added a little bit of quinacridone pink into the mixture because the quinacridone magenta is a cool color, and it was mixing with the new gamboge, which is a warm color, and it was making a muddier orange. So I had to switch to the quinacridone pink. I could start with the magenta, switch to the pink, and then mix it in with the cooler yellow and get a better orange. So that's what I was doing. But now I'm just going through to my sun rays and I'm wetting them completely. I'm painting them with water first, like this, and then I can bleed in color and it'll all run in together and it makes beautiful flame effects. And using the watercolor pencil, because I'm using such light transparent colors, makes it nice because these pencil lines will ultimately disappear as I'm painting. And anywhere that I have any bleeding out of the lines from the roughness in the paper or whatever, then I can just touch up as I go along. But now watch how I can add the water in. You gotta make sure it's glistening, but you want to make sure it's not puddling. If it's puddling, you're going to have too much water on your paper. You can either dab that up with a paper towel like that and just go like this to dab up some of that puddle, or you can use what we call a thirsty brush, where you have it wet and then you just dry it to a dampened point, and then you run that brush across and it sucks up some of the liquid. Or you can just wait for it to sink in a little bit into the paper, which is what I'm doing here, and I'm helping it move along. And then I take my color and I just start bleeding it into the, I got a fuzz on the end of this somehow. There we go. Bleeding it into my flame. Then I can take some of a warmer yellow, bleed that in together, and see how it's just kind of moving along with the other yellow. You can help it to the areas you want it to go, or you can kind of just let it do its own thing, and I do a little bit of both. The only thing with wet into wet technique is that you never want to touch any two spots together while they're wet, because they will bleed together and then you lose the effect of what you were going for. So I'm avoiding that completely, or skipping over the area that I think might bleed. Like I skipped over this one because the flames were sort of overlapping and touching each other. That was the Pyrrole orange, or I'm sorry, Piranone orange. I'm adding a little bit of water there. I'm going to add a little bit of pink to that. And then I'm going to switch to my magenta. And this is just, you know, of course, a fantasy style painting. This is also for a little girl. Apparently her bedroom is in a "You Are My Sunshine" motif. So the parents requested this, the sun and the moon. I had a couple ideas I was going for. This was something that they were thinking of, so I kind of stuck with this. They said I could do whatever I wanted, which was very nice because normally in commissions you don't get that option. You basically have to run everything by your customer and do what they want, which is fine, but there are times when you want to paint something else and you're just not into painting something that a customer might want, and then you're kind of stuck. You just have to suck it up and do it, and I've been there before. Plenty. Now I'm going to go ahead and speed this up again since you saw how I did that. Just adding a little more yellow into the mix. And then I'm done. And I will move on to the next one.